Hello Deep, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This time we are discussing the next season, season 2 of a scam, which is Scam 2020, Scam 2003, the Telgi story, which is directed by Tushar Hidanandani and which was created by the guy who made the first season, Hansal Mehta. So Deep, just पहले बार actually पूछना चाहूँगा like for like before that uh, for the audience please do subscribe to my channel so that मैं ऐसे videos ऐसे possible कर सकता हूँ ऐसे बनाने के लिए. So let's take a deep dive into this season 2 of Scam. Deep, you are the financial, like the head, or sorry, not the research head, I would say, and the financial host of Z Business. So आपको कैसी लगी थी ये सीजन 2 देखते हुए एंड हाउ लाइक व्हेन डिड यू हर्ड ऑफ दिस सीजन 2 एंड व्हाट वाज द रिएक्शन देन एंड व्हेन यू वॉच दिस शो इन द एंटायरिटी कैसा लगा था पार्ट 1 एंड पार्ट 2 बोथ.
Thanks, Sanket. Thank you for inviting me back on your podcast and your channel. So it was fun. I got to know about it, I think, once they started releasing the promos, uske baad hi. And obviously, Scam 92 was such a huge success and it was so good to see. And of course, we've also had a recent discussion on that. So when I got to know of it, I was very excited and I was looking forward to it because unlike 1992 and Harshad Mehta, I was very young at that time when it happened, and then after that, obviously, you would hear about it here and there in the news, but I really never had a context to it while that scam was happening. But with the scam 2003 and the subsequent years of coverage over it, I was very much aware of what was going on, and had a basic idea of what the scam was about. So it was good to kind of see a fictionalized show based on those real events and how it actually took place and how he orchestrated such a huge scam and gamed the system and eventually, of course, had to face the law for it. I was very excited and I was very happy that they've done it. Especially the team that had made Scam 92. I was happy that they were the ones doing this, and I expected very good content from them. And for the most part, I would say they did deliver a very impactful show, and it was a lot of fun to watch, no doubt about that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. मैं actually मैंने ये शो बहुत पहले से सुना हुआ था जब भी like हम बात कर रहे थे about 3 years 2 years of the scam 92 तो तभी पता चल रहा था कि scam is like getting a new season and which will feature Abdul Karim Tilgi's scam which was a stamp paper scam. So I was quite excited to watch this just because the producers who made 92 possible, they're backing this project. So I was all in for that, and that's the main reason I didn't watch this back in August. जब भी अगस्त में आई थी फर्स्ट पार्ट, मुझे एक साथ binge करना. So I was binging this show when it released in November. मजा आया देख के. Like जैसा एक्सपेक्टेशंस जब ये ऐसे कर रहे थे वो वैसे ही रहा था कि हाउ दिस शो इज गोना बी लाइक फर्स्ट कैसे उसका राइज हो रहा था टू द पावर्स, तो कैसे फिर जाके उसका डिक्लाइन हो रहा था. आखिर में जाके काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें सिमिलर लग रही थी स्कैम 1992 से और 2003 से. लाइक काफ़ी रेफरेंस देखने मिल रहे थे उसमें, बट इट फेल्ट लाइक अ गुड वेरी गुड शो ऑफ 2023. जस्ट मैंने थोड़े और भी शोज देखे थे लेकिन मुझे इतने अच्छे नहीं लग रहे थे इन दिस ईयर. ये एक हार्ट फेलिंग शो था. डाइविंग डीप इनटू दिस शो, जब मतलब मैं वही बोल सकता हूँ कि जब भी मैंने स्कैम लाइक द सीजन 1 देखा था उसमें एक लाइक एक थर्ड पर्सन पर्सपेक्टिव बोल सकते हैं. लाइक इट आल्सो बेस्ड ऑन अ नॉवेल बाय लाइक मिस दलाल द जर्नलिस्ट. बट यहाँ पे वो नहीं था. यहाँ पे एक फर्स्ट पर्सन पर्सपेक्टिव जैसे बोल सकते हैं, लाइक बिकॉज द नरेटर इज द वन हु इज डूइंग द स्कैम वैसे. सो वो बोल रहा है कि मैंने ये किया था वो किया था, लाइक यहाँ पे ये मेरी गलती हुई थी. ये चीज़ मुझे काफ़ी अच्छी लगी थी एज कम्पेयर टू द फर्स्ट स्कैम. डिटेलिंग इसमें भी थी, जैसे फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द फर्स्ट सीजन जैसे था वैसे इसमें भी डिटेलिंग काफ़ी थी. एक चीज़ काफ़ी अच्छी लगी थी, लेकिन लाइक उसमें बेसिकली लाइक द फर्स्ट सीजन ऑफ द स्कैम में ऐसा था कि मतलब काफ़ी सारे रियल इंसिडेंट्स और रियल नेम्स काफ़ी सारे वॉइस आउट हो रहे थे. इसमें it wasn't the case, I would say, because I don't know why, but और भी अगर थोड़े like नाम जैसे लोक शक्ति पार्टी और वो सब, it I wasn't getting the context of it. I don't know, because obviously, since you mentioned that you were in the game, like you were at least aware what was happening in, at least in 2005 6, when a scam, it was getting out in the public. So at least you were aware, like, okay, who are the parties involved, who are the people involved. वो जो narco test जो था, आई डेंट न्यू कि क्या था, लाइक वो एक्चुअल न्यूज में आया था कि नहीं, वो भी मुझे नहीं पता, बट स्टिल ये सब चीजें भी मैं अगर मैं बाजू में रख के, आई वुड इग्नोर इट. It's still a great show, I would say. But could you please tell me, just since you mentioned that you were kind of starting to getting aware कि क्या क्या हो रहा था context में, since you were very young at that time, what was the things happening in this scam, if like आपकी knowledge के हिसाब से, could you please tell me?
No, so you used to get daily updates about it, and
Okay.
it was a big thing, and there was heavy media coverage of it. And by that time, print was obviously dominant, but so was TV. So you actually were able to see who the man is. A lot of these interviews, especially after he confessed, you'll find these clips online, and that time, obviously, it was everywhere. Once a scam really came to light and his confession came to light, and even of the names that you're taking, these names would be regularly up and about in the media. I mean, even today, if you do a simple Google search,
Hmm.
you would get a lot of these names out in the public. There's been a book on it, and there's been heavy reporting by very senior journalists when it was happening, and post that in the analysis part of it as well. So when it was happening, obviously, like, it takes a while. Now that you watch the series, you kind of put the dots together and you know how it was orchestrated. But news, whenever it comes out first, you need to really pay attention and put that context together. So you would get these news in bits and pieces. Okay, this was what was happening in Karnataka. This is how he was expanding in Mumbai. This is how he was expanding his network elsewhere. How he went ahead and gamed the system. Who are the possible people involved? Uh, I mean, 30,000 crores is what they're talking of, and it's not a small amount today, and it wasn't definitely wasn't a small amount then. I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge amount that you're talking of, and especially compared to what India's GDP was that time, 30,000 crores is a large, big amount. So, kind of really puts things in perspective. And this is one individual with his network doing the scam. So, kind of also makes you think that what's the actual kind of other kind of scams that are going on in the country, and how people are gaming the system even today, and definitely back then when licensing rules were a lot tougher, and how these things were done. So basically, yeah, I do remember that there was more than adequate media coverage of it, and you would get news come on this regularly, and especially once it became a big issue and it was being raked up in the political circles. And remember, when a large part of these details actually came out just before the 2004 elections, so there was a lot of political mudslinging that went on at that time as well. So very interesting times those were, and definitely, like, it was good to know about it then, but really this series helps you join the dots of how actually he went about and created this network, and then put in context of things that were spoken of at that time.
But like there's always like these kind of stuff happening, right? In whatever stuff you make, whatever content you make, people make in which is based on real life or real events.
True.
There's a like there's a discussion where happens where what is fact and what is fiction. To your knowledge, could you tell me that what was something facts, and what this was, like this was a fact, and this was like these were events for fiction they have made, like do you kind of remember that?
I mean, I see, I wouldn't remember bit by bit details because you're talking of something that
It's
was
okay.
20 years ago.
Hmm.
But in a broad sense, and this was true even in 1992,
Hmm.
the way he went about it, I think it's pretty much an accurate representation of how he did go ahead and set up the network. I mean, let's not forget, we were a very license dominated economy pre 92. And even today, the attitude of the bureaucracy, the tax departments in particular, how permissions are given, it still has those legacy issues, and definitely had those legacy issues in the 90s when this Telgi scam really started building steam, and how he created his network then. So, in terms of a broad picture, I think this series captures what really happened at the time very well. I mean, it's a fictionalized representation, so we don't know how he actually created that network, or what was it that he spoke to those people. For instance, Madhusudan Mishra, who headed the Nashik press, how he actually did convince him to get on board. Those may be a little off color, and you would take a little bit of artistic and creative liberty to create dialogue and create situations around that. But in terms of uh, putting the pieces together, going to the auction, making sure that his people got the right bids, submitting blank bids for that matter, creating that distribution network, understanding how stamp papers are circulated, realizing that you need to sell it in bulk to really make some big money of it, because even though it was a regulated space, within that there were enough players who were going about it the right way. So if he had to really make money, what's the volume and scale you need? You need to also understand how he went about in a very corporate way. Like, he had a sales team together, he had a marketing department, he had a revenue department, he had a full production schedule of it, and how he then went ahead and diversified that production. Once he realized that the Mumbai Maharashtra market had been saturated, he expanded that operation to Karnataka and then to some other states as well. So it was a huge scale of operation. I think that's where I have a complaint with this series as well, because they didn't really give us a sense of how big this operation was. I mean, we just saw 4 or 5 of the key players that were involved in his scheme, and large part of it was obviously Maharashtra and Karnataka. But it was a lot bigger than that. And even in Maharashtra and Karnataka, how big exactly it was beyond the 30,000 crore figure that was being spoken about. I think that's one area where the series missed out on actually showing us how big his scale of operation was in terms of the real numbers and production and all he was doing daily. But I think by and large, it captures the essence of the scam very well.
But Deep, I think once in the later episode, in the final episodes, they have mentioned it, right? That just once, that's it. Like, not a broader scale, on a broader scale, but just once, wherein 20 states were filing like lawsuits
Exactly.
against him. That's it, right? Like, nothing more than that, right?
And I would have liked to see more than that. I mean, that's a missed opportunity, I would say, because if you're showing that this guy was so big and powerful while maintaining a low profile for the longest time before, of course, it really came out in public, I would have liked to see how big that network was beyond these 3 4. So in the series also, like, you see that one printing press he has in Mumbai, and then in Bhiwandi, and then a
Mm.
couple of other places, and then in Karnataka, and it's his brother and a little bit of network in Karnataka, a few cops that you get to see, and then of course the Mumbai operation they focused on very well. But it was a whole lot bigger than that. I mean, 30,000 crores is a big number. So I would have liked to see that, that how big his network really was and how he was gaming the system. But I think again, that's a creative decision that the creators have taken. But it would have been good to see that. Having said that, what they did represent, I think that was fun to watch. No doubt
That's
about that.
good, actually. Yeah. So, we discussed Scam 92 just last year, and you have mentioned quite a good things in that video regarding Scam. So, what, like, since this is a second part of that, like the
Mm.
franchisee, I would say, or the series, I would say, how were your feelings as compared to, like, what was the comparison you made, kind of, regarding the first seasons?
Mm. I think that's always going to be tough for any creator when you create something as awesome as Scam 92 to then have a follow-up series. So obviously comparisons are inevitable, and I would say if you compare it to Scam 92, they have done a good job with Scam 2003, no doubt about that. But I think it doesn't hold a candle as such to Scam 92 in terms of the quality that we saw over there. If you see Scam 2003 individually, not knowing the context of Scam 92 and the same creators were involved, then Scam 2003 is very good, no doubt about it. But if you compare it to what the creators did with Scam 92, I think Scam 2003 falls way, way short, both in terms of, I think, production, in terms of storytelling, in terms of even performances. I mean, full credit to the actor who played Abdul Karim Telgi. He did a very commendable job of it. And if you go on YouTube and see Abdul Telgi's videos and interviews that he's done, and then you compare of how this actor spoke about it and performed, I think he's done a commendable job. Uh, but it doesn't capture. your attention. It doesn't create that kind of aura that Scam 92 did. Both of them were fraudsters. Okay, let's get that clear. Harshad Mehta was a big fraud. Abdul Karim Telgi was a big fraud. But I think in terms of just the storytelling part of it, the performances, especially the performance that Prateek Gandhi was able to exude as Harshad Mehta, I think Scam 2003 fails to recreate that magic. And I think whenever you watch a series, and like you said, you wanted to binge watch it, I also enjoy binge watching. The biggest criteria of success for any series that you end up binge watching is when the episode is ending, you immediately want to start the next one. You don't want to wait even for a second. Uh, I didn't have that feeling when I was watching Scam 2003, or I didn't have that feeling to the extent that, when I was watching Scam 92. So I think the storytelling was good, but it could have been a lot better. Like I said, they skipped over a lot of details. There were things that I would have liked highlighted more. Like I said, how big his network was, even his motivation. I mean, see, a fraudster is a fraudster, whatever is your motivation at the end of the day. Some people are victims of circumstances. I get that. But once you do start making that money, you kind of develop a God complex. You feel that you're above the law, or you can escape the law, you can skirt the law easily, or you draw those comparisons. Everyone is doing it, so why shouldn't I do it? It's an opportunity lost that way. All of that is fine. Uh, in Scam 92 and with Harshad Mehta's story, they were able to bring out his motivations for why he did what he did. Right? For the longest time, you do show his struggle. He gets his license, that gets cancelled. He tries making money the right way, he fails. Then he figures out how others are gaming the system, and then he decides, I'll create my own way to game the system. With Telgi, you have this start where he's this graduate, sells fruits, looking for an opportunity, gets that opportunity, goes to Mumbai. It's a decent job that he gets, falls in love, marries, goes to the Gulf, right? And then comes back, and the moment he's back from Gulf, you see that he's become a scamster already. He's running that passport scam or fake ID, getting these laborers to Saudi Arabia or the Gulf via illicit means. And so you never really get the sense of why did he suddenly become a fraudster. He was
We don't
selling
get the
fruits.
motive of him, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would have liked to see that. What was the motive? Right. And then through the series also, his motive is very inconsistent. So initially, once he gets released from jail the first time, and he has that Gujarati partner, and he comes to the hotel where he's working, his father-in-law's hotel he's working, and he says, "Tera dream kya hai?" And he says, "मेरा dream है कि इस अशफाक भाई के होटल को थोड़ा अच्छे से चलाऊं, और फिर थोड़ा इसको expand करूं और अच्छी जिंदगी जीऊं." So that's a very basic motive. That doesn't explain why he's gone into scam. Later on, then he says, "I'm not intrigued by money." Then he goes on to say, "मुझे पैसा कमाना नहीं, मुझे पैसा बनाना है." Then later on, you see when he's facing a lot of legal troubles, and one of his partners says, "कितना और पैसा बनाना है? You've made enough for your life." He's like, "हाँ, मुझे पैसा is not my motivation. मुझे नाम बनाना है. I don't want these people to push me around like I'm nobody." So you never really get to know, dude, what was your motivation? What circumstances forced you to do what you do? Because you married someone who's richer than you married someone where you had a stable job. Obviously you didn't have make a lot of money, that's evident, but it wasn't like you were living a hand to mouth existence. So what was your motivation? Was it the lifestyle? Was it the power that comes with it? Was it just the money that goes with it? Was it the lavish spending that he does in dance bars? I mean, that part of it, I think, was a missed opportunity. With Harshad Mehta, it was very clear why he did what he did. I don't agree with what he did, but it was clear why he did what he did or what his motivations were. Here, you don't kind of get to see that in a very clear way. At least the series missed out on that, I think.
Okay, okay. Any when you watch this film, sorry, watch the series, did you notice some kind of reference for the first season by any chance? I actually
They did,
did.
na? They
There,
did,
yes,
yeah,
there
yeah.
were kind of. So, could you please like elaborate on that? Like, did you notice some kind of?
I think one of it was, I think, when he's sitting with Manoj Tiwari's character, the Karnataka SIT head, I forget his name, and he says कि मैंने जो भी किया मैंने किसी का नुकसान नहीं किया. Nobody lost out because of me. जो stock market में होता है वैसा. So he was making a clear reference to the Harshad Mehta scam where people did lose money, and eventually you saw people lost savings and somebody committed suicide as well. So there was a tangible evidence of how your scam ended up hurting others. Here he says, I just, sold stamp paper at a cheap rate. If the government is selling for 100, I sold it at 80. But I didn't really hurt anyone. And then this guy goes on to say that is the excuse that everyone who scams the government says, which is not true. So I think that was one reference towards the end when he's giving an interview to a TV channel and he says, risk, ishq hai, isliye maine risk nahi liya. I mean, that was a very obvious reference. So you kind of do get that. I think in the middle also they show one newspaper clipping at that time of Harshad Mehta or something like that, just to put in context of the timeline because this was 92, 93. So you do get passing references of it. I think how with Scam 92 they had that risk hai to ishq hai, and that became a very famous line, and all the people just started copying it and made Harshad Mehta their hero, which I thought was a very stupid thing because ultimately he defrauded people. Same way here, daring to karna padega, darling. I think they tried to create that, but it didn't have the same impact as what risk hai to ishq hai to risk hai had. So that was a couple of things, but obviously there were very clear references they made to Scam 92 in this series.
Even there was one standout dialogue as well that मुझे पैसे like from starting I think when the
Hmm.
posters were getting released like मुझे पैसा बनाना नहीं like मुझे पैसा कमाना नहीं बनाना, that was also
True.
this standout line. But I don't know how popular that was because even the uncles in my locality was talking about scam because obviously we should agree that the scam season 1 was released in 2021 when people were at their home and just like people were suffering from like covid and those times lockdowns and all that stuff. Currently people are working and people might not like okay talk about elaborately on those things, but as compared to scam and it was a very huge thing. Obviously you mentioned the reasons because it had good acting, good production level, and that's the reason. So I don't see, personally speaking, I don't see people talking about this particular show. I don't know, I kind of like that, but still people weren't talking about, but still it's okay, like I kind of felt satisfied. But if at all the any like more future seasons or season 3 would like to come on this series, what will be your expectation just watching season 1, season 2? What will be your expectations for season 3 if at all
I,
any
I
other
think
scam comes?
the good thing about India is there's a scam at every corner. There are so many scams, financial markets and otherwise also. So I think you'll find enough instances where they would be able to make a series. There was a in the mid '90s there was something called Jain Hawala scandal. That was a big thing, and that rocked Parliament. It would be good to see something on that. There was cash for votes. That would be something that would be interesting to watch. There was this whole how they went about and privatized, how they first demerge Indian Airlines and Air India, and then the way they went about it. That I mean, I would be very interested in watching something like that. But then that's again, I do have a financial market interest in that because that was uh, the after effects of that have been very, very interesting for the industry. And like that, I mean, you'll find a scam at every corner in India, so it's not very difficult.
the like due to these kind of scams we like get to know what all is happening, and even scam like shows like scam 92 where those scams were actually very simplified and told us like because of the narrations and because of how because of the visuals as well in that show and like in the season 1. He actually told us what was he doing, like in Ms. Dalal was telling that okay, he used to do this, he used to do that, and how he used to do it. And because of these, we get to know that what all actually happens in the financial terms. Uh, and actually, I think which show, which movie I'm forgetting, as we discussed this, that people in the financial markets tend to people in Wall Street tend to use these kind of very heavy words to confuse statements.
That's true.
Uh, and because of
No,
these
but
show, we actually
I think that's true, and I think that's something that is common in both 92 and 2003. Uh, it's not easy, especially when financial markets are involved or financial terms are involved. to really understand and explain in a very clear and simple manner of what is going on. And in 92 they did a great job of doing it, and in 2003 also. I mean, they've done an excellent job of showing how he put the network together. His motivation for what he did may not be as clear to me, but how he went about it and how he put the network together, initial part of it, I think that they have shown very well. And then of course how he expanded, I think I would have liked to see that a little more. But in terms of what the scam was, how was it done, uh, and how it was being executed, I think that part they've done it very well, and that explanation of it has come out very well. So that I think both series they've done an excellent job. The writers and the creator deserve full credit for bringing that part out.
That's good, Sam. Thank you so much, Deep, for joining me in this discussion. It was a pleasure having you anytime discussing these kind of financial shows, I would say, because we have discussed The Big Short, Margin Call, and Wolf of Wall Street, and having you in these discussions, just frees up my financial knowledge, just increases my financial knowledge. So thank you so much, Deep, for having for coming on this show. So let's hope we can catch up soon on some other, or possibly Scam season 3, if at all it comes out very much soon. So let's